First of all, let me express my deepest gratitude to our ambassador to the Swiss Confederation, to Switzerland, our ambassador Sofia Gaviria. Sofia has been not only a friend for a long time, but she was one of the most determined politicians I've ever met. A person who has always defended her ideas with passion, but at the same time with the rigorous rationality to make a strong case for her beliefs. I also want to say that I met her in times that were very difficult for her, because in fact, she has been a victim of violence in Colombia in the past. Her brother, a good friend of mine who was governor of Antioquia, died in the hands of FARC, who shot him to death. And he was a person devoted for peace. And I know that Sofia, in her beliefs, has been a defender of the rights of victims like no other politician in Colombia. I must also say that her presence in Switzerland as our ambassador is to strengthen the ties between Colombia and Switzerland. She and her team, people from the embassy, and I also want to express my gratitude for Ricardo, who's here tonight. We definitely want to increase trade and investment. Colombia and Switzerland built a free trade agreement in 2011. A free trade agreement that has opened a wide variety of opportunities for Colombia, but also a wide variety of opportunities for Switzerland. And I must say that in this 8 years of trade relationship, of new trade relationship, Colombia has been able to expand its exports to more than $380 million. This demonstrates that this is a big market. This demonstrates that we want the trade to increase. And Switzerland has become one of the main sources of foreign direct investment from Europe to Colombia. Now, being a president born on the 1st of August, I can take advantage of that privilege tonight and say that since we have the same birthday, we definitely have another reason to invest more in Colombia. I was very glad to speak today to President Maurer and invite him for us to strengthen the connectivity ties, that we would love to see a direct flight from Zurich to Bogota, and considering the impact that the direct flight from Zurich to Buenos Aires or from Zurich to San Jose, Costa Rica, has created such a great impact on mobilizing tourism, we definitely want to do the same in the case of Colombia. And as president, I will do anything in our hands to make this a possible solution and a possible window of opportunity for many Swiss citizens to visit Colombia, and for many Colombians to be able to come directly to Switzerland and enjoy the beauty of this marvelous landscape and also the greatness of the Swiss people. Saying that, I also want to express tonight that we're very thankful because the Swiss government has helped Colombia to be a successful implementer of reincorporation for people that have left violence and that want to enter into a path of legality. I know there are many weaknesses in peace process, but not only in Colombia, elsewhere. But we will address those fragilities by being able to succeed in the essence of any peace process, that is to allow former combatants to enter successfully into a life of legality. We have called in Colombia, in fact, that we need to have a justice that ensures that those that have committed the worst crimes against humanity really pay in a proportional manner for the damages they have produced. I have also said that it is our willingness that we're strong when there's repetition on criminal activities. but we are prevailing because we are a nation that has the value and the principles of resilience. And that can be also demonstrated with the fact that we are suffering now the strongest humanitarian and migration crisis seen in Latin America's recent history. We have shown the world that even if this generates pressure fiscally and socially, we have an immigration policy based on fraternity and allowing our Venezuelan brothers and sisters to enter into Colombia, considering that they are flying away from the pressures of lacking of food, lacking of medicine, and finding hope, which is what they are trying to get in our country. And we know this generates stress, but we will always continue the path of having this fraternity in an orderly way. Now, is that sustainable over time? Maybe the answer is no, because we're getting 5,000 migrants per day. So we have to look at the cause of the problem, which is the dictatorship in Venezuela. And I always make a strong call for the international community to commit to the 3 objectives that ought to be achieved in Venezuela, which is the end of dictatorship and usurpation, having a transitionary government with a broad participation, and also calling for fair and free elections to conclude this process and get the institutions rebuilt. I might say, and this is also very important, that the ties and the bonds that we are building between Colombians and Venezuelans are indestructible. That brother to brother, sister to sister, that have been able to share their anguishes, their worries, their anxieties, their passions, and their objectives in life, once there's that reconstruction, is going to make the relationship between Colombia and Venezuela stronger. And when people ask me, what is it that you want to achieve for Colombia? I always talk about the 3 principles of our administration, which is legality plus entrepreneurship equals fairness. We're in the process of modernizing Colombia. Even in these times of stress, our economy will be growing above the regional and global average. Even in these times of stress, we'll get the first fiscal surplus in 8 years by the end of 2019. Even in these times of stress, we're going to be able, and we have already launched the first 4th Industrial Revolution Center in a Spanish-speaking country, and it's hosted in Medellin, and it's hosted in Colombia, because Colombia wants to be a leader in this new economy. And even in these times of stress, we're making a big bet on renewable energies, on creative industries, on having precision agro-industry, or on being able to guarantee that the poorest of the poor can close the gaps. And that's why we want to reach by 2022 that 3.4 million people will leave poverty. 1.9 million people will leave extreme poverty. This year we'll have the first 80,000 low-income students that will go for free to public university. This year we will begin duplicating the single academic journey so that we have more children in public schools going for 8 hours and being able to diversify their curriculum. This year we'll have the first 13,000 small peasants that will be able to sell their products without intermediaries in what we call contractual agriculture. And we are building a social safety net where we can go to the regions of Colombia that have been affected by poverty with things that are small, big revolutions, as I always say. In Colombia, almost 500,000 families do not have electricity. And we want to give that electricity by the end of our administration. And just 3 weeks ago, we went to one of those communities, and with micro solar panels, they turned on a switch. That for us is quite common, but for them it means to have a refrigerator, to have fresh food for their children.
or to be able to connect themselves through a TV or through a computer. Or for somebody that has a small business. As I saw a guy who was had a hair cuttery for the first time, he'll have a cutting machine. And maybe I'll invite you for a haircut when you go to my. But I mention all this because these are revolutions that are happening. And that stronger vision is the one we want for Colombia. To be a country that is modernizing, to be a country that can lead by example when it comes to a fraternity immigration policy, that we are able to build a credible and lasting peace based on the absence of impunity. And I should say, being a country that can lead the discussion on the environment, because Colombia is biodiversity. We have the second strongest biodiversity per square kilometer after Brazil. We have 50% of the world páramos. We have 20 million hectares in 59 national parks. And we want that richness to be preserved. And we want the Colombian people to have the idea of a circular economy based on the mantra of producing, conserving, and conserving, producing, and with the 3 R's, reduce, reuse, recycle, as principles of the ethics of the 21st century. This is Colombia, but Colombia is also resilience because of its people. And I'm delighted, Sofia, our ambassador, that you have introduced me a very important group of Colombian scientists who are taking their PhDs here in Switzerland. And I want to welcome that you're here, Doc, because you have been researching on cardiovascular diseases and the prevention of cardiovascular diseases. You're a Colombian that has made a life in Switzerland. And we want you to keep being an ambassador in the scientist community and being able to attract more Colombians to follow your example. Having you here demonstrates also the bonds between Colombia and Switzerland. And I think that it is our duty not to think ideological when we think about the ties between both countries. We all might have our ideology, but more than that, we have common purposes. You're a developed country. You have a country that, with a complex geography, the same as Colombia, but with a more complex geography, which is the absence to a clear access to the oceans. You have become an economic power with scientific research. A country that has made services